Welcome to Beyond the Mind. Tonight we step into embodied mysticism. Gentle, trauma-informed practices drawn from Kundalini and Soma traditions, woven with modern somatic science. This episode invites you to learn how breath, movement, and sound can refine attention, quiet reactivity, and open a steadier presence. Not to chase sensational states, but to come home to the body and integrate what arises there. Before we begin, read this clearly. If you have a history of psychosis, frequent traumatic flashbacks, uncontrolled cardiovascular conditions, are pregnant, or are on heavy psychiatric medication, consult a qualified professional before attempting energetic practices. If at any time you feel overwhelmed, dissociated, or unsafe, stop the practice immediately and reach out to someone you trust or contact local medical services. This work is educational, not a substitute for medical or therapeutic care. Proceed with curiosity and compassion for yourself. Why do these methods matter? Because breath, movement, and vocalization are technologies of attention. They modulate the autonomic nervous system, influence vagal tone, and create plasticity in the nervous system that can shift how you perceive your inner and outer life. When practiced with care, somatic rituals can expand clarity, increase emotional regulation, and cultivate creative, compassionate responsiveness. When practiced without grounding or context, they can re-traumatize or destabilize, so our orientation here is steady, gradual, and ethically rooted. Prepare a quiet, private space where you will not be interrupted. Gather a mat or a chair, a journal and pen, a bottle of water, and wear comfortable clothing. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb. If you share space with others, let them know you will be unavailable for the next hour. Choose a short safety anchor phrase for yourself. Something simple like, "I am here," and a discreet physical anchor such as a gentle hand squeeze that you can use if you feel flooded. Consent and boundaries apply to inner work as much as to outer practices. You remain in charge of your experience. Use your anchor if anything becomes too intense, and remember that slowing down is itself the deeper practice. Tonight we will not use aggressive breath retention, forceful bandhas, or prolonged breath holds. The emphasis is on gentle activation and stabilization. Let's begin by centering with a brief grounding breath. Sit with your feet on the floor and a tall, soft spine. Place one hand on your belly and one over your heart. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 1, and exhale for 6. Repeat this cycle twice. Allow the exhale to be longer than the inhale. Let each outbreath soften into the floor under you. Notice how your body responds, the settling of the belly, the softening around the shoulders, the subtle shift in the rhythm of your mind. If you feel lightheaded or uneasy, return to a normal breath and rest. After these 2 breaths, take a moment to notice what has changed. Maybe your hands are warmer, or the surface of your thinking feels less agitated. Maybe nothing dramatic has shifted, and that is fine too. The practice is cumulative. If you felt dizzy or unsettled at any point, pause here and use grounding exercises instead of continuing. Check the downloadable safety notes for alternatives and guidance. When you feel steady, bring to mind a simple intention for this practice. Not to force an outcome, but to witness your aliveness. Hold that intention softly as we move next into a short framing of Soma, Kundalini, and how these practices map onto contemporary neuroscience. We will explore lineage, mechanism, and, most importantly, how to integrate what emerges with tenderness and clear boundaries. Soma, Kundalini, Tantra. These are words that carry centuries of layered meaning. Ritual, poetry, physiology, and lived practice. To begin, it helps to hold each term lightly, as an invitation rather than a dogma. Soma in the oldest Vedic sources is at once a god, a sacrament, and a living current. The hymns speak of a drink that quickens the senses, opens perception, and binds the community in sacramental attention. Over millennia, the literal brew and the symbol both softened into a broader image. Soma as the felt aliveness within the body, the emboldened edge of experience when attention is sharpened and the inner senses are enlivened. For our purposes, Soma names the quality of embodied presence, the vulnerable, vibrant field of sensation that becomes a medium for insight when we treat it with curiosity instead of control. Kundalini is often portrayed in popular imagery as a serpent uncoiling along the spine, rising through chakras and producing spectacular spiritual effects. Those images can be useful as metaphors, but they also risk encouraging haste and sensationalism. Classical and contemporary teachers have repeatedly cautioned, Kundalini is not a prize to be chased but a process to be respected. Functionally, Kundalini language maps onto a set of phenomena we can observe in the nervous system. Surges of arousal, shifts in autonomic balance, waves of sensation that move through the body and reorganize habitual patterns of attention. Seen this way, the rising is less about vertical ascent and more about progressive repatterning, the nervous system learning to hold increased energetic tone without destabilization. Tantra, too, is misunderstood when reduced to exoticized sexuality. At its heart, Tantra is a technology of attention and relationship. It teaches how the body, breath, speech, and ritual can be harnessed to transform ordinary consciousness. Tantra embraces sensation rather than rejecting it, using the raw material of feeling as the fuel for inner refinement. The ethical center of tantric practice is consent, clarity, and the careful training of attention so that deep appetites do not become compulsive drives. What does modern science add to this? The convergence is surprising and clarifying. Breathing patterns directly modulate autonomic state. Slow, extended exhales increase parasympathetic tone, improving heart rate variability and calming reactivity. Vocalization, humming, toning, chanting, stimulates the vagus nerve and produces a somatic resonance that the brain registers as safety. Movement, even subtle pelvic micromovements or microtremors, provides proprioceptive feedback that reorganizes the body schema and soothes hypervigilant circuits. These are not mystical claims but measurable physiological effects that correlate with improved emotional regulation, reduced anxiety, and shifts in attentional capacity. Neuroplasticity gives us the mechanism for long-term change. Repeated, attentive somatic practice changes synaptic patterns. When attention is repeatedly directed with kind curiosity to specific sensations, neural pathways supporting that pattern are strengthened. Over weeks and months, the felt field of the body becomes a different ecological niche, one that supports steadier presence, more spacious noticing, and a different relationship to cravings and avoidance. This synthesis, Vedic metaphors and somatic neuroscience, yields a practical orientation. Treat energy work as nervous system training. Begin with stabilization. Prioritize grounding, breath regulation, and clear intention before introducing higher arousal techniques. Frame practices as experiments in noticing what changes when you lengthen the exhale, when you micro-move the pelvis, when you let a low hum vibrate the chest. Keep curiosity as your primary stance. Curiosity is the most reliable antidote to reactivity. There is also a cultural humility to maintain. These practices arise from lineages with specific contexts, ethical frameworks, and safeguards. Modern adaptations must acknowledge that history, borrow responsibly, and avoid appropriation that strips practices of their relational and communal roots. Equally important, these methods can open deep material, emotional, somatic, even traumatic, and should be held with trauma-informed care. Rapid intensification without integration can re-traumatize. Slow, supported cultivation builds resilience. Finally, consider a poetic reframing. When Vedic poets spoke of Soma and sages spoke of Kundalini, they described not merely an individual alteration of state but a reorientation of meaning. These practices invite us to move from fragmented doing into an integrated mode of being, where attention is less a weapon and more a lamp. The lamp reveals patterns of habit, of inherited story, of subtle affinity with archetypal images that recur across cultures. Used wisely, embodied mysticism becomes a path of re-inhabiting the self, not to escape the world, but to stand in it with clearer eyes and steadier hands. Before any somatic practice begins, the body and the context around it must be attended to with the same care we bring to a living thing we intend to tend. Preparatory grounding is not incidental theater. It is the scaffolding that makes transformation safe and sustainable. Think of it as building a small, steady harbor before you send a fragile boat out onto an inner sea. Start by setting an intention on paper. Write a single sentence that names what you are willing to explore and what you will not pursue tonight. It might be as simple as, "I am here to notice," or "I will practice only what keeps me steady." Below that, add a practical boundary. Who will you contact if you feel unsteady? Where is your nearest safe person? And what will you do if the practice becomes too intense? Stop, drink water, sit outside, call a friend, contact emergency services. This tiny map, intention plus an emergency plan, does more than orient the mind. It calms the autonomic system because uncertainty has been reduced. Prepare your space like you would prepare a small altar for care. Choose a room where interruptions are unlikely. Dim or soften the light rather than work in bright glare. Lay out a mat or chair, a bottle of water, a blanket for warmth, and your journal and pen. Set your phone to do not disturb and place it within reach but face down. If you live with others, tell them you will be unavailable for a set period, or lock a door and place a simple sign if that helps maintain your boundary. If privacy is impossible, either shorten the practice or postpone. Somatic work often asks for an unpressured field to unfold. Grounding protocols are simple, repeatable anchors you can return to any time. They are not tricks to bypass felt material, nor are they ways to numb. They are invitations to reestablish a felt sense of belonging in the body. One reliable triad I recommend, feet, phrase, and hand anchor, works in many contexts. Place your feet flat on the floor and notice the points of contact. Heels, balls of the feet, big toes. Press gently into the ground and notice any subtle warmth or pressure. Choose a short phrase you can say under your breath. I am here, steady, breath. Then select a discrete physical anchor. A gentle squeeze of the right hand, a fingertip press to the chest, the feel of thumb and forefinger touching. Practice the triad twice in a calm moment. Feet on floor, phrase whispered, anchor squeeze. The nervous system will learn that this sequence signals safety. Breath matters, but not all breath work is appropriate for everyone. For most people, a slow extended exhale is restful and accessible. An inhale of comfortable length, a brief pause, and an exhale slightly longer than the inhale. If you have cardiovascular issues, are pregnant, have uncontrolled hypertension, or are prone to panic, avoid forceful breath holds, vigorous breath retentions, or rapid circular breathing. For those with a history of seizures or epilepsy, practices that produce strong visual or auditory stimulation should be avoided. Likewise, anyone with a diagnosis of psychosis or a history of prolonged dissociative episodes should consult a clinician before engaging with high arousal practices. If you are taking heavy psychiatric medication, discuss with your prescriber whether changes in autonomic state could interact with your regimen. Trauma history requires special humility. Somatic practices can surface stored material quickly. The hallmark of trauma-informed practice is choice and pacing. Offer options rather than mandates, keep practices brief initially, and emphasize resourcing over risk-taking. Resourcing means building up internal and external supports, practicing grounding more often than escalation techniques, cultivating internal safe places, and identifying a trusted person who can be reached afterward. If you notice dissociation, a blanking out, numbness, or a sense of unreality, stop and prioritize resensing the body with the feet on the floor, a cool cloth on the face, or a walk outside. If flashbacks occur, Use a pre-agreed safety plan and seek professional support. Modifications are not second-class options. They are the skillful way forward. If lying down increases vulnerability, sit upright in a chair with your feet on the floor. If vocal toning feels destabilizing, substitute silent vibration or hands on heart. If pelvic micromovement triggers discomfort, reduce the range, slow the tempo, or replace with gentle shoulder rolls. Pregnancy calls for particular care. Avoid breath retention and strong pelvic contractions. Keep practices gentle and consult a prenatal provider. For anyone with cardiovascular concerns, movement should be slow and monitored. If you have chest pain, shortness of breath, or palpitations, stop and seek medical advice. Create short, clear safety signals for yourself and for any partner or witness. The physical hand squeeze combined with the phrase is one. Another is an auditory check-in before and after practice. I'm practicing now. I'll check in 45 minutes. Establish a 2-item routine for returning to ordinary life. Drink water and touch the ground. These small acts reassert the body's boundaries and help reintegrate altered states. Finally, plan your integration. Preparatory grounding extends beyond the minutes before practice into the minutes after. Schedule 15 quiet minutes for journaling, movement, or walking. Use that time to note sensations, images, and any shifts in mood or perspective. If material surface that feels large or confusing, name it and place it in the notebook as something to explore with a therapist or experienced guide. Repetition and gentle curiosity are the workhorse of transformation. Short, consistent practices done with attention and care will change the nervous system more reliably than occasional dramatic plunges. In short, tend the context, choose simplicity, cultivate anchors, respect medical and trauma boundaries, modify generously, and make space to integrate. Grounding is not a preliminary to be skimmed. It is the core ethic that keeps emboldened curiosity from becoming harm. We now move into the core, a full, hour-long guided Soma practice designed to be gentle, trauma-informed, and deeply embodied. This is an extended session, slow, deliberate, and paced to support nervous system regulation while opening felt aliveness. Read the safety reminder once more before you begin. If you have a history of psychosis, uncontrolled cardiovascular issues, are pregnant, or are on heavy psychiatric medication, consult a qualified professional. Stop anytime if you feel overwhelmed, dissociated, or unsafe. Use your anchor phrase and hand squeeze if you need to pause. Proceed with curiosity and care. Begin by finding your seat or a comfortable lying position. Make small adjustments until there is a sense of ease. Keep a glass of water within reach and your journal nearby. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb. Soft, low ambient sound is optional. Ideally, keep most of the practice in quiet so you can tune into internal textures. First 10 minutes, arrival and deep settling. Close your eyes if that feels safe. Let your posture be upright but not rigid. Let your spine be supported. Place one hand over your belly and the other over your heart. Take 3 full, intentional breaths to arrive. Inhale gently, hold a moment of soft attention, and exhale with a long, releasing breath. On the third exhale, silently state your intention. A short phrase such as, "I witness my aliveness," or "I choose steadiness." Allow that phrase to sit like a lantern at the center of your field. Now bring attention down into your feet. Sense the points of contact with the floor, the heels, the balls of the feet, the toes, wherever your feet meet support. If you are lying down, feel the soles against the ground. Notice the weight there without judgment. Let a subtle invitation arise to feel the roots of your body like a tree steadying itself. Breathe slowly. Inhale for 4 counts, hold 1, exhale for 6. Repeat this breathing cycle for several rounds, letting the exhale lengthen as you feel safer and more grounded. If any part of the body resists or tightens, Direct a compassionate in-breath to that place and let the out-breath soften around it. Next 10 minutes, sensory mapping and slow somatic scan. Shift from global grounding to a detailed, curious scan. Begin at the soles of the feet and move up through the ankles, calves, knees, thighs, hips, pelvis, low back, abdomen, chest, shoulders, neck, throat, jaw, face, and crown. As you scan, use one-sentence prompts in your mind. What is here? Pressure, warmth, coolness, tension, ease. Avoid trying to change anything. Your job is only to notice. When you encounter a place of particular sensation, linger there for a breath or two and describe it silently. Tingle, tightness, softness. As though you are learning the language of this body. If painful or overwhelming sensations arise, shorten your attention and instead return to the feet for a longer anchoring cycle. Dissociation can show up as blankness or floating. If you notice blankness, bring your feet firmly into contact, press down gently, and say your anchor phrase aloud or under your breath. Keep an attitude of gentle curiosity rather than interrogation. Next 10 minutes, pace diaphragmatic breath and micropulsing. With the map of your felt sense now clearer, invite a diaphragmatic breath rhythm that is both restorative and enlivening. Place one hand on the belly and one on the heart. Inhale so the hand on your belly rises. Exhale so it softens. Use a pattern comfortable for you. If you like structure, try inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 6. Maintain this for a number of cycles, always letting the exhale be slightly longer. After several cycles, on each exhale imagine a gentle, tiny pulse in the pelvic floor. An invitation not to tense but to feel a soft release, like a slow unfolding. Think of this as a micropulsing rather than a contraction. If pelvic sensation feels activating, monitor the tone. Keep curiosity about how the nervous system responds. If the activation ramps up too quickly, reduce the breath depth and rest in the feeling of the hands on the belly and heart until steadiness returns. Remember, the goal is not intensity but a slow, cumulative increase of embodied presence. Next 10 minutes, micro-movement and somatic unlocking. Now allow movement, but move only as far as feels curious and safe. Begin with very small pelvic rocks. A centimeter forward on the inhale, back on the exhale. Keep the movement imperceptibly small. Let the pelvis find a rhythm that maps naturally onto the breath. From there, let the movement ripple upward in miniature waves, through the sacrum, lower back, into the ribs and shoulders without forcing. Imagine a thread pulling gently from the tailbone up the spine, creating a soft wave rather than a jerking motion. Introduce very small tremors if they arise spontaneously. Microtremors are the nervous system letting go. Do not try to create them, only invite and allow. If you feel self-conscious about movement, make the eyes soft and unfocused or keep them closed. If pelvic work provokes shame or sexual arousal that feels destabilizing, bring attention to the breath, slow it down, and place a hand on the heart to reframe the experience as somatic matter rather than sexual content. If necessary, pause the movement and return to the feet until you feel regulated. Next 10 minutes, sound, tone, and resonance. When the body feels warm and a gentle current is present, we introduce soft vocalization. Keep volume low. You need not sing, simply allow vibration. Begin with a long, soft hum on an sound for 3 cycles, feeling the chest vibrate. Then move through a few open vowels, ah, o, e, each on a comfortable pitch. Allow each sound to be short and tender. After a few rounds, introduce Bija seed syllables softly at a whisper. LAM at the root, VAM at the sacral region, RAM at the solar center, each only once, with attention to the area it names. If you have a sore throat, recent vocal strain, or discomfort, skip the vocalization and instead imagine the vibration or place your hand lightly on the chest to feel the implicit resonance. Vocalization affects the vagus nerve and the autonomic system. Used gently, it calms and integrates. If the sound produces emotional release, tearing, laughing, let it be. Stay with the breath and continue to ground. If strongly destabilizing, stop and rest in stillness for a few minutes. Next 5 to 7 minutes, embodied stillness and noticing. After the vibrational work, return to stillness. Allow any movement, sound, or sensations to settle. Feel the body as a field of textures. Hot/cool, tight/soft, floating/grounded. Stay with the inner experience but keep the feet and a point of contact as your anchor. Notice the spaces between sensations. A quiet that is not empty but receptive. Let the breath be natural. If thoughts arise, note them as passing clouds. If feelings are intense, write a one-line note in your journal. Right now I feel. And place the paper nearby to reassure the mind that the process is being witnessed. Next 5 minutes, gentle integrative movement and embodiment phrase. Slowly reintroduce light, expansive movement to integrate the inner shifts into the whole body. Open the arms wide on an inhale, close them gently on the exhale. Roll the shoulders with care, lengthen the spine, and tilt the pelvis to find ease. As you move, choose an embodiment phrase to anchor the integration. Something like, I come back to presence, or I carry this steadiness into my day. Repeat it silently with each movement. This links the felt sense with intention. Final 10 minutes, journaling, mapping, and aftercare plan. When you feel ready to conclude, bring the practice to a close with a written mapping. Open your journal and write for 5 to 7 minutes without editing. Use prompts if helpful. What did I feel in my body? Where did my attention go? What surprised me? What do I want to take into my day? Keep the tone observational and non-judgmental. After writing, note one small grounding action you will take in the next hour. Drink a full glass of water, take a walk barefoot, make a nourishing snack, or call a trusted person. These simple acts help reintegrate the altered state into ordinary life. Before you stand, place both feet on the floor and feel the support under them. Breathe slowly 3 times. Rest your hands over your heart and lower belly for a final minute of gratitude or quiet witnessing. If any material felt overwhelming during the practice, make a note to contact a trauma-informed practitioner or a trusted support. If you experience profound insights, consider how to translate them into small, doable actions. One paragraph in your notebook that sketches a first step. A few practical guidelines for the hours after this session. Avoid alcohol or intense social engagement immediately after. Favor quiet, nourishing activities, walking, light conversation, warm food, or rest. If sleep comes, allow it. If insomnia or heightened agitation follows, use grounding tools. Cold water on the face, walking barefoot, paced breathing, inhale 4, exhale 6, or reaching out to a friend. Modifications and safety reminders sprinkled throughout. At any point, if breath becomes too fast or lightheadedness appears, return to normal breathing and place a hand on the belly. If dizziness, excessive sweating, palpitations, or chest pain occurs, stop and seek medical advice. For those with trauma histories, keep the practice shorter initially. Split this session into 2 30-minute segments over different days until you feel more stable. Use the hand squeeze and phrase as your emergency signal. If you have pregnancy, skip pelvic micromovement and breath retentions. Keep movement and tone gentle and consult your prenatal care provider for tailored guidance. Embodied mysticism is not a rapid fix but a long conversation between attention and body. This hour was an invitation to learn the language of sensation, to tend the nervous system with tenderness, and to use subtle practices as the soil for deeper clarity and compassionate action. Keep curiosity as your guide, maintain boundaries as your safety, and let integration, not intensity, be the measure of progress. Integration is where practice becomes life. It is the quiet, deliberate space after the intensity, when sensations settle, images linger, and the mind begins to translate felt experience into meaning and action. Without integration, insights evaporate like mist. With it, small realizations accrete into new habits, new tastes, and sometimes a reshaped temperament. Integration is neither passive nor accidental. It is an art and a discipline. It asks for patience, for humble curiosity, and for practical scaffolding that keeps the nervous system steady while the psyche reconfigures. Begin by honoring what just occurred, whatever arose in practice. Tingling, memories, images, waves of emotion. Offer it a name. Name is the first container. Take a slow breath and say to yourself, silently or aloud, I saw, I felt, and complete the sentence. Naming is not analysis. It is an act of witnessing that moves raw, unformed charge into the field of consciousness where it can be tended. Write the first, most striking line in a journal, one sentence, present tense. This single line anchors the experience so that later reflection has a starting point. Next, place yourself in a safe posture. Upright, feet on the floor, hands resting on the body where it feels comforting. Bring attention to 3 sensory coordinates: the soles of the feet, the weight of the seat, the temperature at the nostrils. Let these simple contacts return you to embodied reality. Integration is a dance between the subtle and the ordinary. You are training an ability to hold the unusual and the mundane simultaneously. Keep this dual focus as you move into deeper inquiry. When you write, let the pen move without judging. Use prompts not as tests but as doors. What surprised me? Where did my attention go easily? And where did it resist? Which image felt like it belonged to someone else? Which sensation felt like an old story? Allow your sentences to be short and raw. Resist the temptation to craft immediately. The first pass is data, descriptive, not interpretive. If images repeat, a color, a place, a person, note them. Over days, these patterns will clarify themes and pathways the practice is pointing toward. After naming, give the body a simple movement ritual to translate felt states into integrated posture. Begin with tiny, deliberate motions. Roll the shoulders, shake the hands loosely, rock the pelvis 3 times. These are not stretches to produce results so much as signals to the nervous system that embodiment is continuous and safe. Walk slowly for a few minutes, paying attention to the heel-to-toe sequence. Walking grounds altered arousal into step. If you are indoors, step outside for a breath of air. The change of environment helps the brain reset contextual cues, reminding it that quiet intensity need not be permanent. Use micro-practices as integration scaffolding. A 5-minute breath of 3 slow cycles. Inhale 4, hold 1, exhale 6. Works repeatedly because it calms the autonomic system and provides a reliable anchor. A 1-minute cold face wash or a hands-to-feet grounding ritual resets somatic boundaries without overwhelming the system. Carry a small object, a pebble, a bead, a piece of cloth, that you can touch when something from the practice reemerges unexpectedly. This tactile anchor says to the body, here is safety now, you can return. Integration also requires meaning-making, but meaning must be approached with humility. Resist the urge to instantly translate a strange symbol into a definitive life directive. Instead, ask exploratory questions. Where in my life does this image resonate? Does it point to an unresolved relationship, a missed possibility, a habitual avoidance? Write 3 tentative hypotheses and treat them like experiments. If one hypothesis suggests a small action, send a message, set a boundary, carve an hour for a creative task, try it for a week. Integration favors small, iterative steps over dramatic, irreversible moves. Ritual can be a powerful bridge. Ritual need not be ornate. It can be a simple set of gestures repeated reliably. Create a short closing ritual for your practice. Light a candle, fold your journal in 3 parts, place a hand on your heart, say your anchor phrase. Do the same ritual for 3 consecutive sessions to let the nervous system learn a predictable pattern of closure. Ritual provides predictability and symbolic weight. It helps the brain categorize an intense internal event as a bounded episode rather than an ongoing crisis. Community and communication matter. If appropriate and safe, share 1 line from your journal with a trusted friend, a practice partner, or an online group that follows trauma-informed norms. Speaking a single sentence aloud relieves the pressure of internal looping and invites feedback that can refract your experience into useful frames. If you have access to a therapist or an experienced somatic teacher, schedule a check-in within a few days. Integration is social as well as individual. Witnesses and guides help contextualize material that otherwise might become overwhelming. Be mindful of aftereffects and have a plan. Integration is not always serene. Energy can stir dreams, bring delayed emotions, or provoke restlessness. Keep an aftercare toolbox. Paced breathing, a short grounding walk, a warm herbal tea, a safety contact to call, and an agreed phrase to use with others if you need space. If a memory or emotion intensifies into flashbacks or sustained dysregulation, reach out to a trauma-informed clinician. Make no heroic moves. The right move is the one that keeps you safe. Translate insight into habit through iterative experiments. Choose 1 small action informed by your session, perhaps a 10-minute creative sketch, a conscious phone-free evening, a boundary you will hold, and commit to doing it daily for 7 days. Track the result in a simple column, action/result/feeling. This modest scientific approach honors both inner knowing and external effects. Over weeks, these microhabits accumulate neural evidence that a new way of being is possible. Create a weekly integration practice, a structured check-in that lasts 20 to 40 minutes. Begin with 5 minutes of grounding breath, 10 minutes of free writing on a single prompt such as "What is shifting?" 10 minutes of movement or art making that embodies the writing, and a final 5 minutes of planning 1 small action to be carried into the coming week. Repeat this ritual weekly for at least 4 weeks. Integration is cumulative and often non-linear. Art and play are underrated integration tools. Translate somatic images into collage, sound, or movement improvisation. If words fail you, draw the shapes you felt, hum the tonal quality you experienced, or improvise a 5-minute movement phrase. These nonverbal translations access different neural channels and can stabilize transformations without forcing conscious interpretation. Share these artifacts selectively with trusted peers or keep them as a private archive you can return to and reread in new seasons. Ethical reflection is also part of integration. Ask, how does what I experienced affect my relationships? Do I feel called to act in ways that require consent and care from others? Integration asks you not only to shift yourself, but to consider the ripples of that shift. If a practice brings a new clarity that calls for boundary setting, prepare for it gently. Plan what you will say, when you will say it, and how you will hold presence if the other person reacts strongly. Remember that transformation is rarely solitary. It reverberates through networks. Finally, cultivate patience as a practice itself. Integration often unfolds over months. Early sessions may feel like small tremors. Later, cumulative changes become visible in daily rhythms. Less reactivity, more spaciousness, altered tastes in conversation or art. Celebrate small markers. One evening without compulsive scrolling. A calmer response to an old trigger. A clearer sense of what you want to say. Mark these shifts in your journal. They are the true evidence of deep work. In closing, keep a practical checklist near your practice space. Name and one-line note, 3 grounding contacts, feet, seat, breath, 2 micro tools, cold face wash, pebble. one small action to try for 7 days, and one planned check-in with a guide or friend within 72 hours. Integration is neither magic nor mere reflection. It is the craft of translating inner experience into grounded life change. Treat it with reverence and with the curiosity of an experimenter. And over time, the quiet labor of integration will reweave your daily life into something more aligned, more compassionate, and more awake. We'll close this hour gently, with a grounding of meaning, practical next steps, and a clear frame of ethics and care. Thank you for giving your attention. What we did together was not a trick or a quick fix. It was an invitation, a careful, repeatable way of bringing attention back into the felt landscape of your body, of learning a language you already speak but may not have noticed. The somatic practice you just experienced is a simple technology of attention. Small breath shifts, tiny movement, quiet tone, and steady witnessing. Over time, these base skills accumulate into durable changes in how you respond to stress, how you inhabit sensation, and how you carry presence into your relationships and work. Hold for a moment whatever quality lingered after the practice. If there was a particular image, a bodily tone, or a sentence that felt true, write it down now as a single line. Name it. Naming moves a raw experience into a vessel. Even a single sentence anchors future reflection and gives your nervous system a narrative thread to follow when later patterns emerge. A few practical steps to support integration. Drink a full glass of water and move your body slowly for 5 minutes. Walk, roll your shoulders, or stretch your legs. Make a plan for the next hour that favors tenderness. A warm meal, light reading, a slow walk outside, or silent rest. Avoid pushing yourself into intense social situations or stimulants immediately afterward. Instead, choose activities that gently mirror the calm you cultivated in practice. If anything felt destabilizing, dizziness, overwhelming emotion, dissociation, use your safety tools now. Put your feet on the ground, run cool water on your face, breathe at a comfortable, unforced rhythm, and contact a trusted person if needed. If material continues to feel intense across days, contact a trauma-informed clinician. These practices are powerful and sometimes open deep material. Professional support is not a failure, it is wisdom. For further study and ethical guidance, consider reading across 3 registers: Lineage, Somatic Science, and Trauma-Informed Care. On lineage and ritual context, explore introductory translations and essays on Vedic thought and Tantric ethics. On somatic science, look for accessible works on the vagus nerve and polyvagal theory. On trauma and embodiment, prioritize authors and clinicians who center safety and integration. Curate sources that respect context and avoid sensationalism. Lineage, humility, and ethical borrowing matter. If you enjoyed this session and want to continue, here are a few structured pathways. A. Repeat a condensed 20-minute version 3 times a week for 4 weeks and note shifts in sleep, mood, and reactivity. B. Join a small group weekly practice for guided support and shared integration. Or C. Commit to one micro-action for 7 days that reflects what arose in your journal, a short creative practice, a boundary you wish to try, a 5-minute morning breath ritual. Small, steady experiments are the most reliable engines of change. A word about ethics and lineage. These methods draw inspiration from living traditions that include ethical commitments, community practices, and teacher-student relationships. Borrowing techniques without honoring their social, cultural, and spiritual contexts risks flattening their meaning. Practice with humility, give credit where it's due, and if you pursue deeper levels of work, seek teachers who are trained both in the lineage and in trauma-informed care. Finally, a community invitation. If you feel safe and willing, share one line from your journal in the comments. One sentence that names a felt insight, not a private disclosure. If you'd rather post publicly, tag your post with #BeyondTheMindEmbodied so we can read and compile reflections, anonymously if preferred. If you found value, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you don't miss future guided practices, short reprises, and integration worksheets. Download the integration worksheet and safety checklist from the description to support your ongoing practice. Share this episode with one person who you think would benefit, and tell us in the comments what you want to explore next: deeper breathwork, partner practices, or trauma-informed Kundalini work. May this practice root you in steadiness, curiosity, and compassionate care. When you are ready, close your journal gently, place both feet on the floor, take 3 slow breaths, and carry the steadiness into your next moment. If you want the printable integration worksheet or a shorter daily reprise, say which one you want and I'll prepare it next.